He believes the government is building a massive surveillance machine that will ultimately prove irresistible to those in power.
A new leader will be elected. They'll flip the switch, say that because of the crisis, because of the dangers that we face in the world, some new and unpredicted threat, we need more authority, we need more power, and there will be nothing the people can do at that point to oppose it, and it'll be turnkey tyranny.
That, of course, was NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden from about a decade ago, warning about the surveillance state being built back then. And I was reminded of that today because I ran across this headline in the New York Times. This is what we were always scared of. DOGE is building a surveillance state. So this is exactly what Edward Snowden was warning about way back then. And is it happening now? Is DOGE doing that? We're going to look into that today. We're going to look into this article. And also, we need to see what DOGE has said that they've been doing. Elon is supposedly stepping back from DOGE. So the article starts out, Elon Musk may be stepping back from running the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, but his legacy there is already secure. DOGE is assembling a sprawling domestic surveillance system for the Trump administration, the likes of which we have never seen in the United States. Well, Edward Snowden did warn of that, and the brakes were put on because of his whistleblowing. He hasn't been allowed back in the US since. But let's see what DOGE said that they've been doing in this past 100 days or so. Elon was talking big about savings, but have they been doing something else?
Do at least $2 trillion.
I think we'll try for $2 trillion. I think that's like the best case outcome. But I do think that you kind of have to have some overage. I think if we try for $2 trillion, we've got a good shot at getting one.
We can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget.
I'm excited to announce that we anticipate savings in FY26 from reduction of waste and fraud by $150 billion.
Those were Musk's claims. Now, let's look at an independent audit. That's what most companies rely on, especially when they're looking outside at a merger or buying something. The New York Times reports Musk's approach to government cost taxpayers over $130 billion. In other words, the bulk of what Musk has done has wiped out the claimed savings, even if you quote his current agency. And you take that together, and the numbers aren't really adding up. Not for the claimed savings for the federal government, definitely not for Mr. Musk's loss of over $100 billion. What did we just live through?
Indeed, what did we just live through? Now he talks about 160 billion of savings. Actually, that was just in the last 24 hours where they had a Trump cabinet meeting and Elon said about 160. Way back in the campaign, he said they should be able to find 2 trillion. He said that he isn't going to completely step back, but this is only about 2% of the overall budget of the government. So really, it's sort of a clean bill of health if you look at it from that point of view. If that's all they've found of waste, fraud, and abuse, they haven't prosecuted anybody or even look like prosecuting anybody for fraud. So what actually have they been doing? Is it something else that they have been doing in there that Elon has been doing in there? Now, this article says President Trump could soon have the tools to satisfy his many grievances by swiftly locating compromising information about his political opponents or anyone who simply annoys him. Now, would Donald Trump do that, do you think? I think we all know that he could do that. And Edward Snowden actually warned of exactly this happening. So a decade later, time has gone by, the government did change, and look at what's happening. The administration has already declared that it plans to comb through tax records to find the addresses of immigrants. It is investigating a plan so morally and legally challenged, it prompted several top IRS officials to quit in protest. Some federal workers have been told that DOGE is using artificial intelligence to sift through their communications to identify people who harbor anti-Musk or Trump sentiment and presumably punish or fire them. And here we are on that exclusive. Musk DOGE using AI to snoop on US federal workers, sources say. And so the reason that they're doing this, Donald Trump ran on getting a lot of immigrants, undocumented, illegal immigrants out of the country. And so is this the crisis, kind of a manufactured crisis, if you ask me, that Trump is using to say it's an emergency, we need all the data, we need more power? Is this what Snowden was talking about? Is this the thing? It seems like the Trump administration is manufacturing these crises. There may be more. They could do what Edward Snowden's saying. And has Elon been helping them to collect information, to consolidate information, to get a lot of the information for use by the Trump administration? What this amounts to is a stunningly fast reversal of our long history of siloing government data to prevent its misuse. In their first 100 days, Mr. Musk and Mr. Trump have knocked down the barriers that were intended to prevent them from creating dossiers on every US resident. Now they seem to be building a defining feature of many authoritarian regimes, comprehensive files on everyone so they can punish those who protest. Now, this is what the Stasi did in East Germany. They were surveilling everybody. Of course, they didn't have the digital surveillance that we do now. And siloing information in government departments seems to be breaking down. And Elon seems to have been doing that. At least that's what they're saying. There have been big questions about what he was doing with the information. There have been whistleblowers come forward about how data is being siphoned out of the agencies very quickly, going in there. So looking for abuse and fraud and waste. Really, is that what they were doing? They haven't seemed to have found much, but maybe they got a lot of data. This is what we were always scared of, said Kevin Bankston, a longtime civil liberties lawyer and a senior advisor on AI governance at the Center for Democracy and Technology, a policy and civil rights organization. The infrastructure for turnkey totalitarianism is there for an administration willing to break the law, and this is what Snowden was saying. Let's listen to more of what Snowden said.
When the world was first introduced to you, you made a statement about turnkey tyranny. What did you mean by that?
It means that even if you trust the government today, what happens when it changes? And in our democracy, we're never more than 8 years away from a total change of government. Suddenly, everybody is vulnerable to this individual, and the systems are already in place. What happens tomorrow, in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, when eventually we get an individual who says, you know what? Let's flip that switch and use the absolute full extent of our technical capabilities to ensure the political stability of this new administration. When we think about the future and where we go from here, the question is, are we going to change and enter sort of a quantified world where everywhere you've been, everyone you talk to, it's indexed, it's analyzed, it's stored, and it's used maybe against you? Or will we recognize the danger of that and embrace the fact that people should have space to make mistakes without judgment, to have sort of the unconsidered thought or conversation with your friend? But if that was recorded in a database where, now you say, I think Donald Trump should be kicked off a cliff, and Donald Trump becomes president someday, sure, and everybody who said that ends up getting thrown off a cliff. That's a very dangerous world. And I think this really is the question that our political structures are not yet comfortable even discussing. But whether they like it or not, it's a world that's coming, and we're going to have to confront.
Okay, remember, this was quite a few years ago, more than 8 years ago, I think, that he was actually saying this. So is that what is happening now? Trump is in power for the second time. Elon Musk gone in there and helped him get this data, get it together. Are they creating this database of people, information on people, that is this turnkey tyranny that Edward Snowden was talking about? We're going to look more at that in a second. But if you're getting value out of this episode so far, it really really appreciate if you hit that like button to help spread it to more people. Now, out of the 465 videos that I've made so far, I think this is probably one of the most important, so I really would appreciate, helping to spread this video further. Thanks. Now, let's see the article more. Over the past 100 days, DOGE teams have grabbed personal data about US residents from dozens of federal databases and are reportedly merging it all into a master database at the Government of Homeland Security. This month, House Democratic lawmakers reported that a whistleblower had come forward to reveal that the master database will combine data from such federal agencies as the Social Security Administration, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Department of Health and Human Services. The whistleblower also alleged that DOGE workers are filling backpacks with multiple laptops, each one loaded with purloined agency data. And so, yes, are they collecting this data and taking it out of each agency and combining it together? It has been known that they've been taking data. Various whistleblowers have said this. And this one here, disturbing whistleblower information obtained by committee Democrats leads ranking member Connolly to demand investigation into DOGE's disruption of Social Security operations, collection of American sensitive data. The question is it too late? Have they already got this data and nobody really knows what they're doing with it? I've highlighted here, and compiling a master database of Americans' most sensitive data that risks exposure and exfiltration. So has it already happened? Has the horse already bolted here? Elon went into these agencies, barged in, demanding access, and have they already got this data, and what are they doing with it? That is the question that needs to be answered, and is it too late to do anything about it? For years, privacy advocates, including me, have obsessed about just how much of our data big tech companies possess. They know our locations, monitor our browsing and online shopping histories, and use that info to make inferences about our interests and habits. But government records contain far more sensitive information than even the tech giants possess. Our incomes, our bank account numbers, if we were fired, what diseases we have, how much we gamble. So this information all combined together rather than siloed is really powerful. It could be powerful against, say, government enemies, the president's enemies, high-ranking official enemies. In 2009, the Georgetown law professor Paul Ohm envisioned the assemblage of a DOGE-like amount of data and called it the database of ruin. Almost every person in the developed world can be linked to at least one fact in a computer database that an adversary could use for blackmail, discrimination, harassment, or financial or identity theft, he wrote. So this is exactly the kind of thing that Snowden was warning about. And he put his life on the line to be a whistleblower, to blow the whistle on what was happening at the NSA about this data. And here we are a decade later, and this is happening. We are not all the way down the rabbit hole yet, though. So there is hope. It appears that DOGE has not yet tried to scoop up data from the intelligence agencies, such as the National Security Agency, the NSA, which collects vast amounts of communications between foreigners. Okay, so that was what Edward Snowden, where he worked, or he was a contractor for a company that worked there, and often catch Americans' communications in their net. So people talking to people outside the US, like me, for instance, and that communication can be caught up because, there's two parties involved in that and they don't separate it out. That said, it is not encouraging that the head of the NSA was recently fired, apparently at the behest of an online influencer who is friends with the president. Even so, the creation of a huge government database of personal information about US residents is dangerous and very likely against the law. And it is important enough for Edward Snowden to blow the whistle and risk his life, really, and to be exiled, ending up in Russia. That is not his preferred destination. That's where he's ended up. So, he can only say so much in these days. Of the more than 30 lawsuits that involve Doge, several allege that its data incursions violate the Privacy Act. So far, courts have ruled in plaintiffs' favor in 2 of those cases, issuing orders limiting Doge's access to data at the Social Security Administration and Department of Treasury. So the Department of Treasury was one of the first ones that Elon went into with his minions, with his Doge minions, and nobody really knew what they were doing in there. So move fast, break things, and basically take data too, it seems. Both cases are ongoing. While the orders restricted Doge from obtaining personally identifiable data, it remains unclear what happens with data that has already been collected. So that's the thing, they move so fast, so quickly before people really knew what was going on. They've already got that data, and once they've got it, are they going to give it back? Are they going to reveal what they took? Is it too late? And what is Elon doing with it? Do they really care about making savings in government? It's such a small percentage, but is this what they really wanted to do in there? To pick just 2 examples, last month Doge bullied its way into the federal payroll records for about 276,000 federal workers, placing the officials who objected on administrative leave. And this month, a separate whistleblower at the National Labor Relations Board came forward with evidence showing that after Doge workers arrived, there was a spike in data being siphoned out of the agency. Now, I made a video about that very thing, the whistleblower who was on various networks on TV with his lawyer talking about it, and there was a massive spike in data that was so obvious. It was so obvious to him that it was being siphoned out. Huge amounts of data, gigabyte upon gigabyte of data being siphoned out. In no other country could a person like Elon Musk rummage through government databases and gather up the personal data of government employees, taxpayers, and veterans. But in short, we still have time to stop the creation of the database of ruin. Congress could defund Doge or repeal Mr. Trump's executive order. Is that going to happen, do you think? They said this should be a bipartisan issue. And that's what Edward Snowden was saying. Like, all Americans should be concerned about this because this is not what America wants or needs, to have this vast database. So in terms of politics, it should be bipartisan. Everybody should agree on this. At the moment, that's not happening. Elon moved very fast. He says he's not doing it anymore, but he is still working on there. The president said he can come back. He's more concerned about Tesla at the moment because his companies and his wealth is declining with the boycotts. People getting very angry with Elon for doing this. People aren't stupid. They saw what he was doing, I think, and they hit the streets, protested Tesla. Was it too late, though? Did he move fast enough to gather all this data, and what are they doing with it? And so politicians need to find out. And speaking of politics, if you haven't checked out the politics channel, the new politics channel, I'll put a link in the pinned comment. So I'll see you over there. And right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a link to a related video right there and a subscribe link on screen. Do subscribe if you're not yet. And thanks to you for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.